Aisha! Whoa! I gotta watch the entire Ghost in the Shell in the next 3 minutes or we're all gonna die! Take the cyber modem, alright? I'm gonna have you jack me in whenever I give you the okay go. Now read this book. It's Neuromancer. It'll teach you how to net run, okay?
Net run, okay.
Once I'm jacked in, you're gonna have to push this button 3 times. It'll create 3 frames off of that cartoon show. Those 3 frames will be the password.
Oh, wait, with this?
Yes!
Okay.
So Aisha, why are we dressed up like idiots today?
Because we watched Ghost in the Shell. I don't know.
人形使いってあの正体不明のハッカーが
Yeah, so we just saw Ghost in the Shell. Again, because we've seen it a bunch of times, but...
Yeah. I don't want to watch that live action remake again. We watched it how many times?
Yeah,
2 times?
we might talk about both movies here. The original 1995 film and the Scarlett Johansson 2017 thing. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about Cyberpunk as a genre.
Information wants to be free.
I saw it whenever, because I've been getting into Cyberpunk recently due to Cyberpunk 2077. I've been reading through Cyberpunk 2020 because I'm thinking about doing a...
oh yeah, the tabletop game.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing an actual play for Cyberpunk 2020.
Look at that, that looks like...
I know.
Doesn't that look like Keanu Reeves?
Well, yeah.
And
I mean,
Mnemonic?
it's always Keanu Reeves, Aisha. Always.
That's crazy. Why is he the poster boy for Cyberpunk?
He's the punk man, Aisha.
And you see, punk is supposed to be attitude, and he has like little to no expression.
But we've already got ice.
We've got ice.
Double cheese anchovies?
Check out Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah, so I have three categories for Cyberpunk. The first one is usually each Cyberpunk story has social and economical struggles. You see that a lot in science fiction, right? Philip K. Dick, H.G. Wells. We watched Metropolis. Metropolis, it has the same kind of idea where it's
Poor people at the bottom.
Poor people at the bottom.
All the rich and fancy people at the top.
Yeah.
And there is no middle ground at all.
Yeah, this extreme social Darwinism where the richer should get richer and the poorer should get poorer.
And you know what? Isn't that what it's like in the tabletop game, the Cyberpunk?
That's what, yeah, I mean, that's what it's like in all the Cyberpunk stuff. I see that as a recurring theme in all the Cyberpunk. Usually everything's owned by corporations, and it's not too far of a stretch to imagine a world where everything is owned by Disney. The next thing that I noticed in Cyberpunk is the visual style. Everybody can imagine Blade Runner. Obviously, Blade Runner is the big, it's based off of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Yeah.
But the visual style, I want to say, is unique to Blade Runner. I don't
Definitely.
think it's like that in the book.
Now, I'm trying to think, when did Blade Runner come out again, and when did Akira come out?
I think 1982. I think they both came out 82. One of them
Really?
came out 82, one of them came out 83, I think. They're really, really close together. And yeah, we're gonna get to that because there's some strange similarities between all of these things.
Yeah.
And we're wondering what it's based off of. It could just be general technology of the time.
It's like they all knew about net running and the Matrix and hacking. And
it's weird.
weird elements that are kind of, they all
It's
share
almost
the
like
same
it's all
thing.
one person.
Yeah.
Like a standalone complex, Aisha. So the visual style Blade Runner, we've got this film by Ridley Scott, and whoever was in charge of the art of Blade Runner was absolutely amazing because he sparked this huge inspiration for all of these writers, William Gibson and Bruce Sterling, even though the film itself is really just your average detective noir film where Harrison Ford is phoning in his performance.
They don't advertise for killers in a newspaper. That was my profession.
Yeah, it sparked this huge revolution with the cyberpunk genre. And William Gibson, who was a guy I've been reading recently, he released a book called Neuromancer.
It is very confusing. I'm going to let you know that right now in the beginning. It's confusing, but once when you kind of understand how his lingo is. You get into it and it's really good.
It's a very challenging read. Yeah, it's very dated. It's coming from a guy who grew up long before our generation, where they didn't really understand computers too well. So Neuromancer was what sparked the attitude to embrace technology in every way, shape, and form, to the point where it's normal. It's normal for people to have cybernetics. It's normal for people to have access to the internet and all that stuff, which is very interesting coming from its time period, because in the 80s and 90s, people were kind of scared
about the internet because it's an unknown thing.
Yeah.
So many possibilities, so many ways for something to go wrong.
Yeah, and you have films like War Games that came out in 1983 where with the invention of the personal computer, a child can basically interrupt nuclear deterrence. William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer, I saw an interview with him because I'm a giant nerd. It's a really, really long and boring interview, but during the interview he mentioned, because usually when you see a kid on his phone, a man who's like 80 years old or something will see
Those damn kids always on their screens. They don't know how to interact with real people.
Yeah, you have an 80-year-old man, William Gibson, who's this old hippie hipster man who says that, wow, like all this social networking and all these phones, nobody's ever alone.
Things in their pockets and writing letters on them and playing Angry Birds. And they're never alone. What will people make in 20 years of all the fiction ever written in which people are mostly alone most of their lives?
Yeah.
That the solitude will be incomprehensible.
All right, so now let's finally talk about the movie. How did you feel about the movie?
Well, I feel like nowadays a lot of movies lack subtlety. It just tells you exactly what it is and what to expect. But with this film, it gives you a lot left to ponder on. And that's something that I really, really appreciate about films that take the time to do that. Films that raises questions that you might not really find yourself thinking about. So that's definitely something that I appreciate about this film in comparison to films that we have nowadays.
Yeah, we can talk a long time about different theories and things that this film has created and all the inspirations that it's made too.
Exactly. It's really fun to just kind of, I guess, get your own perspective and then see what someone else thinks about it or their theories and all of that. We even looked online, like tons of people had different thoughts about it that we didn't even have.
We have different theories about how we feel about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see it as a cyberpunk horror. That's what I call it.
Brew! Gotcha. Scared you.
Because, you know, cyberpunk is about embracing technology, but then this film's like, wait a minute, what happens when the world is infused with technology to the point where you can't even tell the difference?
Right.
What does that mean for certain things? Mm-hmm. And I love that idea, and I love that question that it creates.
Or like just a few nitpicky things that I didn't like about the film would just be how scarce the information is about the world due to lack of information. So it is very subtle, but when it comes to just how the world is, I feel like they should have given us more.
Yeah, I think Roger Ebert mentioned on his review for it, he said information is a bit muddled, too muddled for a wider audience to really understand,
right.
Which is absolutely, I can see that, definitely, especially with its plot, with all the politics and stuff. It's
right.
Definitely not its strong point. I would say all the other things, except for the politics, is where it really stands out. But speaking of the plot, I guess I should bring that up, but the plot is, there's a security company called Section 9. They work for, they're like a government security in Japan.
相手の外交官は札付きのワルだからな。うまく現場を抑えてもよくて強制送還だ。
Basically, they are looking for a master hacker called the Puppet Master. This Puppet Master managed to hack a foreign interpreter. They suspect the Puppet Master to disrupt really important political talks with another country through the interpreter. Throughout the film, Motoko, our main character, is having issues or like a personal crisis about her existence as an individual. The reason why this is because of her cybernetic body. She is essentially a brain in a metal case within a robot body.
So what we have is a world where cybernetics is basically common for the average person. Technology is becoming so advanced to the point where there is a line blurred between humans and robots.
Yes.
And that is what makes this film so interesting.
It's a cautionary tale that's still relevant today. Yeah, you mentioned blurring the line between humans and cybernetics. Visually, he shows that like throughout the entire thing, right? Even its intro scene. And the first thing she does is rip off her jacket.
Oh, right.
And I'm thinking like, okay, she just ripped off her jacket? Is it just for fan service?
She looked naked to me.
She looks
initially.
naked. She looks naked. But if you look closely, she's not actually naked. She has some weird bodysuit on. It just happens to be the same color as her skin.
Right, and her boots are a different color.
Yeah. I thought it was a weird choice for the director to make the bodysuit the same color as her skin. It matches the theme of blurring the line between humans and machines. You don't know if it's her body or not. You can't really tell. You have to look really freaking hard to see. There's a man who's like looking for asylum, and one of them's like a government official, and he's talking to Section 6 guy, and then his head fucking explodes. And when his head explodes, you see nothing but machinery, like just a bunch of wires and things hanging out, and it makes you wonder, like, wait a minute. Was this guy a human or was he a robot? Because if you don't know anything about Cyberpunk, you're asking yourself that question, like what?
Right.
What did I just watch? Blurring the line between humans and machines. And now the last shot is you have Motoko falling backwards, the famous shot of her covering her eyes and the optic camouflage covering her face. I see it as the director informing the audience, like, if it's a human or if it's a machine, you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
So this film is like an interesting art house film. It has many experimental sequences, and I think like some early usage of 3D animation, some subtle hints about sexual identity, which is pretty advanced for its time, and some interesting monologues about existentialism between Motoko and the Puppet Master.
今我ら鏡もて見るごとく見るところおぼろなり
Yeah, it's very, very surprising that we have an anime film in the 90s that doesn't have too much action in it, because I heard somewhere that the producers were like worried that this movie wasn't going to make that much money.
It didn't have a lot of
It
action.
didn't have that much action in it. Like, what the fuck are you doing? What do you mean you only have 2 action scenes?
Yeah, it's great that they don't think like other companies. But that's like definitely what the genre is about. It's not really like, it can be about action, sure, but like his take on that cyberpunk genre is more so about technology and humans, and you don't need action really to talk about that. It's more so a thing that you have a lot of open dialogue about.
Right. And speaking of art house, let's talk about that long ass window shot.
I had no idea what was going on the screen. I thought I was missing something. It was very dark.
Well, that's the issue. We were missing something. Because I was sitting there like when we watched it again, and I was like, how does this make me feel? And it made me feel isolated because you have the dark surrounding in the window just right in the middle of the frame. And it sits there for like 5 minutes or something. Well, it's probably not that long, but it feels very long. Before that, we had the intro sequence that would later inspire The Matrix. She wakes up and she's looking at her hand, and she does a little very small and subtle like movement of her hand to show that she has some issues with her existence.
Yeah, I feel like that entire thing was like her dreaming about her origins.
About her, yeah,
That's
where she
what
came
I took from that. Yeah.
Yeah. And first thing she does, she wakes up, she turns and looks out the window, and then we had a closer shot of her staring out the window. It's very, her eyes are like kind of in the middle of the frame. Then we cut to the window. I want to say that this is a metaphor for the eyes are the windows to the soul. In this world, people's brains are placed into these metal shells, and especially her specifically, we experience that and how she feels. Like it's an isolated, what are we as humans besides just brains looking out at the world? and it's very, very scary, you know, cyberpunk horror, very, very scary and lonely, and it encapsulates like what a large part of this film is about.
She has like no personal belongings at all, it seems like.
It looks like it.
Or it could be like she's a baby in the womb.
Or it could be a baby in the womb. It could be a lot of things.
It could be a lot of things. That's what I love about it. You can just keep thinking about this all day.
Yeah. It's artistic expression,
Right.
you know? And you got the producers like, why the fuck is it sitting here in the dark for 3 minutes? Just
Everyone's gonna
nothing
turn their
going on.
brain off after 1 minute of just darkness.
And that's why artistic expression. He's just visually showing us something, which is what you should do in your film.
So everything about it is just visually appealing. There's a lot of just grimy, dirty background buildings that you can see. The signs, the water is really dirty. You see a rusty bike in there. It feels very lived in. Even with the animation, the mysterious hacker guy, he shoots into a fence and you can see it shred. Like that's really incredible detail that they pay attention to.
Yeah, and that same character has the optic camouflage, and which later inspired Metal Gear Solid. I'm sure it did. I don't know for sure, but it has. There's a lot of things in this movie. If you're a fan of Metal Gear Solid, you should definitely check it out because I see a lot of similarities. I see Liquid Snake, the fight with Metal Gear, and her clothing looks exactly like Snake. There's a lot of
She does the 1-2 kick combo.
1-2 kick combo. Yeah, he does a. I want to say it's the thing that Raiden does on Metal Gear Solid 2. Oh, Raiden. I said Raiden. Ugh. But yes, the visuals are very, very memorable. Like the entire Motoko fighting while fighting the man while she's invisible. There's like the wide shot of all the posters filling up the frame.
It's almost comical, her beating his ass like that, and it's a wide shot.
It's a wide shot, and it looks like he's
Flying up in the
he's just
air.
like fighting nobody.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like burned into my brain, that shot. That's just how great it is. She slams him down, and you can see her optic camouflage flash. He's like picking her up, and
The way how his body contorts. The animation is just really great. So shortly after that, we have a very interesting sequence that visually shows us how Motoko feels about her place in the world and her individuality. She looks through a shop and she sees herself having lunch somewhere, which is really strange. I guess that's hinting towards the fact that she's a mass-produced model. But this isn't really expressed or explained to us in the film.
the manga tells us that she's a mass-produced model, but it isn't really conveyed in the film. So maybe this was on purpose to keep it ambiguous. That's one of the things that we talk about when we say this film can be kind of challenging when it comes to information. It didn't really tell us that, so we see that and we're like, what? What's going on here? But it could be on purpose, so there's one shot where we see a store and two mannequins, and then it's the next shot we see her as one of the mannequins, and it looks like as if she's looking out at society. We see people like walking past her, and she's like got a blank stare in her face.
And then they show a mannequin staring off blankly. This is a world where memories can just be created and easily implanted into people's minds. So if this can happen, what does that mean for memories in general?
夢も存在する情報は全て現実であり、そして幻なんだ。どっちにせよ一人の人間が一生のうちに触れる情報なんてわずかなもんさ。
Brew!
Yes, and the Puppet Master basically says that himself. What we have here is a artificial god that we created, telling us that we are limited, ignorant beings. As humans, once we die, all of our memories and experience go away with us, but since he's basically living in the net, he's
immortal.
Technically immortal.
それを言うなら、あなたたちの DNA もまた自己保存のためのプログラムに過ぎない。生命とは情報の流れの中に生まれた結節点のようなものだ。種としての生命は遺伝子という記憶システムを持ち、人はただ記憶によって個人たりうる。たとえ記憶が幻の同義語であったとしても、人は記憶によって生きるものだ。コンピュータの普及が記憶の外部化を可能にしたとき、あなたたちはその意味をもっと真剣に考えるべきだった。
He reveals that he wants to fuse with Motoko, and essentially all of the memories and experiences of both parents fuse together to become one new individual entirely. This is where we have different views on how we think all of this went down. I see this entire film as a woman who, due to being so infused with cybernetics, felt lost with society and herself as an individual. Down to the point where an AI looks her in the face and tells her they are almost equivalent sides to a mirror.
私たちは似た者同士だ。まるで鏡を挟んで向き合う実体と虚像のように。
Upon hearing this, she chooses to sacrifice her individuality to join this cybernetic hive mind, and she basically accepts this network as her god. So now as this new individual, she has sacrificed her individuality to create this offspring that shares both of their memories. And I saw it as like that new offspring is like the store, and Motoko and the puppet master are like mannequins. Like they're just a part of that store now, which I thought was really, really depressing. It's almost like she was looking into the future when she saw herself as a mannequin.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I saw it.
I saw it as that's what she wanted. She wanted to be more than just herself. And because she fused with the puppet master, who also felt that way, they became more than just what they were. The puppet master's goal was to become better than just what they were. And in order to do that, they would have to reproduce with someone else. Instead of just making a copy of themselves, they need assets or like certain features from something else in order to become better. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different theories that people have for this film. We can talk hours and hours and hours about different ones.
Didn't you say you also had another theory where she wanted to have a baby, but she couldn't because she was limited?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe because she had a robot body that she couldn't have a baby, so this was probably her only way to do that. Maybe.
That's kind of interesting.
So this film has a lot of interesting, ambiguous messages. And then now we've got the 2017 Ghost in the Shell starring Scarlett Johansson, which explicitly tells you the message of the film.
We cling to memories as if they define us, but they really don't. What we do is what defines us.
We cling to memories as if they define us, but what we do defines us.
We're here.
2017 Ghost in the Shell starring Scarlett Johansson. Oh boy, and it's so weird, you know, I feel like every Ghost in the Shell fan I've met said that they like this film. I don't know why they like it, because we can barely finish this film. We tried to watch this movie like 3 times. We can barely watch it. So I had to like fast forward into the end. We got so bored.
This film felt like a big fart in my mouth.
It is the most generic movie it can be, and that's like the worst thing you can be.
Right, like every problem with this film is basically it's a symptom of a producer checklist. They think to themselves, how can we appeal to the widest audience possible?
Yeah, a slave to its producers. It's like, instead of having some nice, ambiguous, existential finale, let's just have Takeshi Kitano shoot a guy.
Let's just tell you what the film is about.
Explicitly, multiple times.
We cling to memories as if they define us, but what we do is what defines us.
A synthetic shell. Your soul, your ghost, it's still in there.
You're not the same.
It's just a robot.
Let's tell you that this is literally her ghost inside of her shell.
Right at the beginning of the movie, it just explicitly tells her that.
They could have just said ghost, because, you know, that's a weird way to refer to your brain that's kind of unique to it. But, you know, shell, you didn't have to say that too.
I made a small little list here because this is all the things I noticed this film did. That's just like, it's obvious that it's the producers. We need a cookie cutter plot and a basic action movie structure. Because, you know, the original one had a different kind of structure. It wasn't so generic, and it was very short. Put together in a nice, neat little bow.
The government stuff was kind of, it was in the background.
It's in the background.
That's not what it was about, but they want to bring it to the foreground.
They bring
They want to put it in your face.
Corporate corruption. We need a general fortune cookie message that means nothing.
What we do is what defines us.
It's funny that you say fortune cookie because every time I crack it open, I feel like it doesn't appeal to me or it has nothing to do with my life at all.
It's general enough.
It's vague enough for you to kind of feel something, but when you really think about it,
right,
does it really matter to you? And that's basically how the movie is. The entire plot is about Motoko trying to figure out her past and whatnot.
It's just a huge revenge plot.
Yeah, there's a huge revenge plot. And
for
so
the government changing their past.
Right, and so basically the message is saying it's not about your past, it's about who you are now. But it's dumb and not relatable because we don't know what it's like to be a cybernetic person and to lose our memories and have them taken away from the government. So what the fuck does that mean to us?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to it. It's just, it's a thing that a producer heard and was like, oh, you know what? That's a good message.
We should look up how many movies have used that same generic fucking
I'm
message.
sure there's a lot. We need to diversify every character to reach all ethnic groups. But we really don't care about diversity because we're gonna hire an American lead actress. We need that American money. We need that American money.
Oh my god, but you know, Jason, to make up for such a blunder, they're gonna hire Takeshi Kitano because every Japanese person loves him.
Yeah, but oh wait, he only speaks Japanese.
So we're gonna have him walk in with subtitles.
Let's have him speak Japanese and everybody speak English. That definitely will not make it look like they shot his scenes at a different time.
I
had to, or more would have died.
旧家の一員としてわしにはお前への責任がある。
I will find him, and I will kill him. It's what I am built for, isn't it?
Making the puppet master a transsexual artificial god is a bit weird. So let's just make him a guy who wants revenge.
You're a murderer.
They tried to kill me first. It is self-defense. Defense of self.
It's just a guy who wants revenge. That's it.
That's it.
Let's add action scenes that we don't really need and extend this film by 30 minutes.
Let's take some aspects from the original Ghost in the Shell that people will remember that's really cool and just sprinkle it in there. They'll really love that. They'll love this movie.
I know what that is.
I know what that is.
Yeah. Let's have Michael Pitt, aka Meat Lips, try to show up Rutger Hauer's performance in Blade Runner.
More will die.
Eat your heart out, Rutger Hauer. Let's give Michael Pitt's voice the same effect that Conky has on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Creation, when I'm finished.
Ready to assist you.
Let's put Konami in the movie.
All the gamers will love that.
Yeah, that'll give us rep points from the game.
So the issue with this film is that it completely just flies off course and it completely misses the message and the entire point and structure of the original film. And they do this so they can put in generic action scenes and things that will appeal to the average person so they can feel safe with their investment.
Yeah, all the producers like safe with their money.
Hoarding their money. But you know what? The movie flopped anyway, so was it really worth it?
Yeah, let's not do anything interesting, unique like the original source material. Let's change it up so it's just basic action movie, which I said before, it's the worst kind of movie you can make. Just boring.
They could have had this movie like open into limited theaters and have someone else who's not Scarlett Johansson, have someone who's Japanese, and you know, if that doesn't get all the American viewers, at least have it appeal to the people who love Ghost in the Shell and, you know, Japanese people. We don't need Scarlett Johansson. If you're gonna have Takeshi Kitano with subtitles, I don't see why the main character.
But they need Takeshi Kitano to shoot the bad corporate man. They had a whole scene with Takeshi Kitano just shooting the bad corporate man, and I was like, what are you doing?
And then the corporate man falls in slow motion.
So this whole film, very boring, very generic, and there's one scene that encapsulates this whole film in comparison to the original 1995 film. At the beginning of the movie, we have the scene where she's fighting the geishas or whatever. She shoots the geisha in the face. And then she looks down at it and she's looking at it. And then Bato walks up to her and is like, "You're not a robot. You're not one of them."
Hey, it's just a robot.
It's just a robot.
And you know, she didn't just look at it, she looked at it and her arm that was open, and you see all the circuits and stuff.
I need to tell the audience that you have issues. We get the shot of her waking up and looking at her hand, but it's not a small twitch. It's like she's like looking at it like that. And then guess what? It's the same room in the same shot from the original film.
Oh my God, that's right. And you can see the entire room.
Yeah, you can see everything. It's not dark. It missed the point entirely. The people who made this film, they watched Ghost in the Shell, but did they understand Ghost in the Shell? This product that you've made, it looks like Ghost in the Shell, but it's not Ghost in the Shell.
It's not what Ghost in the Shell is about. Not even what the TV show is about, really. The TV show has really interesting plots and really interesting stuff, like the woman and the man, the female robot, and how she and the guy would talk to each other in movie quotes. Yeah. And then she says something at the end that wasn't in the movie. Yeah. That was beautiful. And then we have this stuff, this movie, shout out for money. It's really offensive, actually. I see.